Hey, how are you?
Hello.
We're back.
We're back. Freedom Forum 2. Uh-oh. Got a mechanical failure with my chair. Listen, let's say a prayer here. Jesus, I know that so many people have pushed you out of their lives, out of this country, out of everything. You know, I mean, I go to things, I'm praying tonight that the school board did the right thing with the Pledge of Allegiance, or that'll be another thing to deal with. Lord, we ask for your intervention. There are many of us that will be right there as your sheep in the flock. We pray that this country can get back to where it was, which I know is at this point in time is a multiple task. In your name we pray. Amen. Well, the first hour, I know you need to get on your list.
It's okay. It's okay.
This is
We're good.
the hayride. Here's another, how do we put this? Another governmental thing. You know, Obama blamed Bush, still blames Bush. Dumbbell Edwards blames who? Jindal.
And you know, there's an interesting parallel with that because Obama was in the Senate at the time and Dumbbell was in the House of Representatives at state level.
Yeah, but you talked to his people. He fought against all this stuff.
He fought what?
I went and looked at voting records.
Ooh, Jim, you ain't supposed to go looking at that. That's the truth. You can't hold them accountable to vote. That's the truth. You can't do that. No, Jim, no. That's like Boustany. You can't hold him accountable for the fact he voted for the omnibus spending bill to abort babies and to bring jihadis here.
We never did find out how much he got paid for that.
Well, he's obviously well bought and paid for. You know one thing, though, Jim, I do admire about Charles Boustany?
What's that?
Doesn't he lie good? You know, I mean, that man, you got to admit, we were at that crawfish ball in Baton Rouge, Jim, and he got up there,
Oh, yeah.
I have fought Barack Obama every step of the way. And I'm thinking to myself,
Trade pack.
yeah.
Omnibus.
And Obama's gotten everything from the Republicans they ever wanted, and Charles Boustany was there to vote. Look
Now,
at that.
Tonight, I saw a commercial on TV, okay, that said how great it is that now 350,000 more people can get health care, Medicaid. Leave me give you a fact that I know and have fought and have battled in Baton Rouge for 3 years.
Yeah, the biggest insurance company in America, United Healthcare, just about went belly up because they lost about $6 million on the Obamacare fiasco.
This is an article out of the Hayride.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to tell you what, I'm glad this is in here. Jim feels good. You know why? Because Jim told people this stuff, and I didn't need the Hayride to tell me.
Just reinforces it.
But Louisiana's government is growing, and the governor is doing everything he can to grow it more.
Oh, yeah, I read that article. Oh,
The
yeah.
Louisiana budget is more or less $1 billion larger than it was last year.
Over Medicaid expansion.
It gets better. The idea that we're in a budget crisis is pure, I don't know what that word means, contrivance.
I mean, it's all made up.
Yeah, well, the budget is larger mostly because of Medicaid expansion. Oh, Jim, you were right.
And Jim, what do Democrats do? They tax and spend. And what has Dumbbell done? Tax and spend. Gee, Jim.
Which
you're psychic.
John Bell Edwards says is saving the state money.
Gee.
He says that because the federal government is paying for the expansion.
Yeah, right.
I'm glad he said all of this stuff. And even though it isn't paying for all of it, the money the feds are shoveling to Louisiana offsets state money that is spent on indigenous health care. Because the feds, are you ready? And I have said this, I saw the chart and how it works, only pay 60% of what the state. Did he say they were paying for all of it?
Mm-hmm.
60% of what the state spends on indigent health care. And the feds pay 90% of the Medicaid money. So the more people who are on Medicaid rather than being indigent is the better off the state is.
Except,
Which is an entirely, boy, they just threw that hook out there, which is entirely a fraudulent argument. Because Medicaid expansion isn't aimed at indigent people. It's people who don't work and have no income.
and here goes the rub. Those are the tax takers that are draining the system.
It's aimed at lower middle class people who don't have health insurance because they can't afford it and their employer doesn't provide it.
Well, most of them don't have an employer. That's the rub.
So where the state was paying 0% of health care costs, now it's paying 10%. We have a budget crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
So we have a budget crisis, and he now adds more to it. Oh, but look at all those nice taxes with no cuts that he's put in there.
here's a headline. Louisiana's economy is a 5-alarm fire right now. And it goes into the whole thing about the oil field crashing. That's not Jindal's fault. That's not
Yeah, but the
Dundale's fault.
problem that I find, Jim, is that state government wants to blame a lot on the oil field crunching. And I can see where civilians have lost jobs and everything, but that still doesn't address the fact that we took in plenty of tax revenue according to John Kennedy, and if we just did the cuts that John Kennedy suggested, we would be out of that hole because they won't cut anything.
I'm going to get through this in the statements in here. This is a great article. We're going to have a special session, and it will be damn near run thing if it in the
You staple too high.
in the fact that we do not avoid more massive tax increases. It's coming. I have already sent off a little message to our favorite lady, Julie, about the fact that I am a retired guy. I want you people to think about this because it's going to happen. This is what John Dumbbell Edwards wants. I said that to the wrong person the other day. They got really upset with me.
The
But
truth shall set you free.
you know how you get the benefits of your homeowners and all that interest?
Yeah, your deductions and all your interest stuff.
Yeah, well, that's going away.
Of course.
And that, I talked to one person and said, well, add $3,000 to their state tax bill.
Of course.
Okay. To mine, probably between $1,200 to $1,800. Where am I gonna get this money? I'm on retirement. I got a retirement check. I have to keep working. And then I still have to find a way. And FEMA keeps taking more of my money. $1,300, and it ain't even come close to flooding near my house. And here's number 4. Edwards can smell re-election.
Oh, man.
They'll reelect him.
And while he shouldn't have the faintest chance at it, he's not insane for being optimistic.
See, he's counting on the fact he's going to have a surplus when it comes time for reelection. And he can say, oh, look at the good that we've done and look how we've turned it around.
But then there'll be people like us who remind the people that we have less money in our pockets.
We're going to try.
Also today, I saw where they are setting up a thing to where they can track you purchasing things on the internet and sales tax, collecting the sales tax. I read the article today. They're working on it. And number 5 in here, don't look to the Louisiana Republican Party, which is essentially a moribund. What is a moribund?
Neutered.
Okay, for help. And we already know that because we've been in the faces of several people. Here's the deal. there is no reason for this special session to happen in June.
That's right.
They're wasting money.
I talked to several very good people. There's a whole lot to this article, but the thing is, we wanted to bring that out.
He wants to raise more taxes, is what it is.
It's again the same thing that's happening in DC. I looked at back when I first purchased my house. I was paying around $300 for homeowners insurance and about $200 for flood insurance. Okay, that's 23 years ago. Today, I'm paying $2,300 in homeowners insurance and $1,289 in flood insurance.
Insurance is the biggest racket in America outside of global warming.
Calculate that to the fact that that is how much? $300 a month added to my house payment.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yep.
You know, there's going to come a time where I'm not working anymore, and I'll be barely able to hang on to my house.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be able to take that $300 and add it to my house payment and pay off my house.
Yep.
But I always looked at things like this. I have a nice house. I'm hanging on to it. But there are people that don't even have a house. Veterans. And that's a whole nother subject.
That's a sore subject.
Very sore subject.
I've been addressing that on Facebook regularly.
Me too. And I mean, I heard the deal about the clinic being built here in Lafayette. You watch. Uh-oh, forgot to turn my bell off.
That's Bob.
It said Bob Parker, see Brett's text. But anyways,
Let's see.
time is of essence.
Yeah, this is an update on Tom. Tom is at the hospital for a minor infection, probably back over at Lafayette General. Otherwise, no significant change in cognition, but the vitals are good. So, but what Bob is basically saying is keep up your prayers.
Keep praying.
Very little
You
change.
never know. I mean, we look at all this stuff, and I mean, you look at things that happen in government today. There's a crazy thing going on right now. John White, of all people, is suing two individuals who asked for public records from the Bessie Board. He has filed lawsuits against them for asking for that information.
I think under the Freedom of Information Act, he's going to find out that it could turn right around and bite him on his political behind.
I want you to think about this. We have a budget crisis. How comes Dumbbell Edwards didn't tell JW, shut up and do your job, which he hasn't done unfraudulently for all this time? I can't get over this. The arrogance of this. You know, he likes me, right?
You're his favorite.
I'm his favorite
He sits
son.
right by you in the meetings.
I'm his favorite son. Always says hi to me. If only he knew what I was thinking when he did that.
Something about a razor strap and a razor.
But, folks, we're sitting here and we probably sound like we're not being negative. We are trying to inform you.
This is just the facts.
This stuff, we can't make this up. I didn't write this article. The Hayride did. But you know what? This article is pretty factual.
Oh, yeah.
You see, it says that says the federal government is paying 90% of Medicaid. I forgot to hit this point. Next year in their formula, how they figure it out, how much they pay,
They back it off.
they back off.
So they
And
suck the state
in 5 years, they will only be paying between 20 to 40%.
Yet,
You want to dispute me on that? Go check it.
yeah, and there's the rub. We've expanded all these programs getting 90% payment, And then all of a sudden, in 5 years, we're on the hook for half of it. Where's that money going to come from? What's Dumbbell going to do then for the money?
Oh, no, he'll be relaxing in the Bahamas and out of office.
Well, he's counted on re-election, so
Well,
we should go to the Bahamas now.
We have our lieutenant governor said he's going to run.
Do you think we could get him a trip to China like Jindal did, except we could have the Chinese keep him?
I don't know.
We could pay them to keep him,
work on it.
like to ransom a red chief, you know?
You know,
You know the Chinese would call us up. You dirty Americans, you send that liberal Democrat. We pay you, take him back. He breaking us. He breaking us. Mm-hmm. Amazing.
but it's. Let's see if we can get into your pile a little bit.
Well, the first thing on the top of my pile, I saw this and I thought it was pretty interesting. 13 states Obama's using for secret agenda. Now, folks, this is nothing new. Jesse Ventura came out on his TV show with the FEMA camp issue. For those of you who are deniers, Charles Rangel was the first person to ever author legislation to build FEMA camps and fund them, and then other things too. And for those of you who think that's for illegal aliens, well, right now, folks, they're not arresting a single illegal alien, and there ain't nobody in the FEMA camps except the guards and the Halliburton staff that's going to staff it. But what came out from some insider reports has opened up a whole new dimension to the FEMA camps. A map was put out online that shows basically the 13 Confederate states. And what the significance of the map was
This was pretty.
is the fact that that is the central area, according to this article, that Obama is going to use the FEMA camps in. Here is the map, folks. It's in red, and if y'all can see, that is the old Confederacy, for those of you in the know. The significance of
Funny
this...
that it's south.
The significance of this is pre-Y2K, Tom broadcast, the federal government for Y2K was saving the Deep South, the Confederacy, for last because they always thought we were the tough nut to crack. We have all the guns. We have all the people who are motivated. The South has generously contributed most of the veterans to most of the wars. A significant number of Special Forces personnel come from the South for the fact that our Southern boys all are woodsmen, hunters, shooters. So the interesting thing about this is the question, what we're going to do about this? What's coming out of this? This whole thing is given even more significance when the Jesse Ventura initial FEMA camp broadcast came out. Was never rebroadcast again on any TV station. Yes, you could see it on YouTube, and there was quite a bit of replay there, but that's the only place you could see it because the federal government pulled it. Now, if there's no credence to the FEMA camp issue, why did the FEMA camp story by Jesse Ventura get pulled and was never seen again? If it's all false.
Oh, no, it's.
And I have personally talked to people who have seen these sites. And folks, I'll show you this map one more time for y'all to see. And y'all notice this is the old Confederacy. So,
And by the way, I'd like to point out that he didn't win any of those states.
oh, that's also, yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah.
He didn't win any of those states.
Yeah, that's another good one
The
too.
reason he don't like us?
Oh, you know, that's an interesting one. Here was an interesting article that the CPAC organizer
Tell
rejects
who CPAC is.
a meeting with Zuckerberg over Facebook's suppression of conservative. The American Conservative Union, CPAC, has a big meeting every year, and especially during political campaigns for politics, and they have speakers there. And they are the guru of some of the conservative movements. A lot of people think that they are the backbone of the conservatives. And it was interesting because the American Conservative Union chairman, Matt Schlapp, issued a response in an invitation to CEO Mark Zuckerberg to discuss allegations that social media has been suppressing conservative topics from their trending news section.
No.
And what made it interesting is that the CPAC organizer rejected the meeting with Zuckerberg. He didn't want to go meet with him. And some of the facts are that Facebook staff has admitted to suppressing content about CPAC. Facebook rejected the ACU's overtures to Facebook play a meaningful role at CPAC. The deck is stacked. CPAC content egregiously underperforms on Facebook compared to Twitter and other platforms by a factor of 10. And Facebook trending news chief Tom Stocky is a maxed out donor to who? Hillary! No. Of the 1,000 political donations from Facebook employees, 80% have gone where? Hillary! Okay. So the big thing is I'm quite proud that CPAC basically told Mr. Zuckerberg, Mr. Zillionaire, Mr. I'm building a compound with a fence around it, but you can't build a fence at the, at the border because, that's racist. The CPAC told him to go pound sand. Now here was an interesting story that I saw that raised my ire. I was around in the 90s when Bill Clinton was going through every woman he could get his hands on and some that he got more than his hands on. And
Really?
Betty...
Really?
Well, there is the stain on the dress now. We can't say anything for marksmanship. He's not an NRA member. He doesn't hit a target well. But hey, we can't talk about that. But we had to get this picked up in Tel Aviv because the regular media won't talk about Uncle Bill because Uncle Bill got nasty habits. It seems that Bill Clinton's rape accuser, Miss Juanita Broderick, has said that NBC News correspondent Andrea Mitchell told her by phone the network would not conduct a new interview with Broderick because you have nothing new to add since the first NBC interview in '99. Folks, there is a whole crop of mindless, brainless millennials who don't know about Uncle Bill's nasty habits. And that his nasty habited wife, who has a higher kill ratio than the Mafia and SEAL Team 6 put together, is running for public office after her 4 dead people in Benghazi and all the other nice, nasty things she's done, got rid of Gaddafi, set the whole Middle East on fire. Let's see, took billions of dollars, well, $120 million. Yeah, $120 million in bribes and speaking fees for her to allow foreign government access to our servers, her servers. And a lot of those emails were classified SAP. And if for y'all that don't know that, SAP emails are beyond top secret because those emails actually give the names of the operatives and the soldiers conducting a mission. So not only was the mission compromised, but she gave foreign powers the actual names of the people. So the gist of this article is the fact that Andrea Mitchell missed several new details about Broderick's dealings with Bill and Hillary. And then the plot thickens. For those that are intimately familiar with those details, let's see. Uncle Bill, our nasty uncle, repeatedly called Betty after the alleged rape. She was shocked that he would have the audacity. Well, Betty, that's not really a sexual act. Betty, I testified in front of Congress. I did not have sex with that woman. That's probably the same for you, too. And he called the nursing home that she owned, and they passed the call through. And he said, "Hi, this is Bill Clinton. I was just wondering when you were coming back to Little Rock again after the alleged sexual assault." I mean, she said that just caught her so far off guard, she just didn't know what to do. And 2 or 3 weeks later, guess what? Bill Clinton called again. And kept on a couple more times, and finally just had to start denying that she was even there. And that's after the rape. And of course, as we know, Broderick says Hillary has tried to silence her. She attended a private fundraiser where Uncle Bill was at the home of a local dentist where the Clintons were at, and Hillary directly approached her. Broderick said a friend of hers who had driven the Clintons to the fundraiser informed her the whole conversation was about Betty Broderick coming from the airport. Broderick said that Hillary approached her, said it was nice to meet you, and said that I just want you to know how much Bill and I appreciate the things you do for him. Now bear in mind, Bill Clinton raped this woman, and Hillary wants her to know how much she appreciated what Bill did. Really?
Sick.
Really?
It is. It's
Really?
sick. These people, you know, the big thing is that they so far above the law. It's amazing.
And here goes another good one. Broderick says NBC removed the bombshell charge that Hillary tried to silence her. When Broderick broke her silence by speaking to Dateline in '99, Clinton's rape accuser said that she told the network reporter Lisa Myers on camera that Hillary tried to silence her. Broderick recalled to this author of this article that during a pre-taped interview, she began to tell Myers about the personal meeting with Hillary, described above, and where the first lady strongly implied the alleged rape victim had to stay silent. Broderick says that an NBC staffer present for that '99 filming rushed in front of the camera, interrupted the pre-recorded session, and declared that allegations against Hillary could not be included in the interview. Ooh, my! She charges NBC went so far as to refilm that part of the interview with Myers asking the same question anew and Broderick sidestepping the Hillary meeting in the response. Yep. And the producers also ran in there and said, no, that we can't go there. Folks, this is just one person of a list of women that we know of that Bill Clinton has raped. We know for a fact that Hillary had a group of paid, on retainer, private detectives that were called the Bimbo Squad. And what they were to do was to contain and disprove any allegations, or as they said, bimbo eruptions. And that's what the whole thing was. Hillary was not only complicit in this, and she says, my in the field reporter Brock says that Hillary Clinton's tactic was to use a henchman by the name of David Brock to smear evidence against the women, to attack their credibility, and to ruin them. And people died, folks. I used to have a list, starting with Vince Foster, then going to the 4 ATF agents at Waco, ending at another 118 or so people, and this was in the 90s, who died because the Clintons kill off anybody who is a threat. Anybody. Anybody.
I mean, I wish I could be in Baton Rouge tomorrow at the Capitol. They're doing the care bill thing again.
Oh, look. Here's another interesting one. A federal judge has ordered the Department of Injustice lawyers to take an ethics class because they lie like cheap rugs. It seems that Judge Andrew Hannon knew that the administration, Obama's boys, were approving amnesty applications, but actively hid that information from him and from the 26 states that sued to stop the amnesty. The court ordered a halt to it. What does Obama's paid legal liars do? They continue. Mm-hmm. Now, it's getting interesting because today on Outnumbered, Judge Andrew Napolitano was there talking about this. And you know Judge Napolitano, he knows the score. He thinks it probably won't stand because the Justice Department is appealing it because The federal judge ordered the whole Justice Department, that's 10,000 lawyers, to go to remedial ethics training. They're estimating the bill for that's going to be a couple of $1 million. So what's going to probably happen is the four knuckleheads, lawyers, legal prostitutes, who went up in front of him and lied like a cheap rug, will probably have to be ruled against individually and not the whole Justice Department. Folks, there's a reason why we call that place the Department of Injustice.
Oh, yeah.
Just ask Clive and Bundy, and just ask the Hammond family, of which the BLM was trying to
who is
steal.
That's in charge of the guys for the border now?
Oh yeah.
Said she's in favor of open borders. Well, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out why they hired her.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes. Here was an here was an interesting article. I thought it had a lot of merit. That Bernie's thug life. When Grandpa Bernie is lying when he says he doesn't approve of the violence perpetrated on his behalf by his supporters. Folks, I forecast that the big fight before November will be between Bernie supporters and Hillary supporters. And I forecast that we will no longer have to watch MMA. We will simply watch Bernie supporters attack Hillary supporters, and they will bring weapons and other factors, and it'll be the best violence, better than the Roman Colosseums, better than ice hockey, better than MMA. I think it's going to be epic. So I think Dana White's going to probably have to find a way to get a subsidiary from Black Lives Matter to check in with him so he can film, you know. But this article is pretty interesting, and it says that the reason Bernie Sanders pointedly refuses to condemn his supporters for making death threats against Democrat officials is that he doesn't actually object to their behavior. He blew off pressure from some Democrat leaders and tried to disavow his ugly tactics, calling the complaints nonsense and arguing his supporters are not treated with fairness and respect. Folks, I think you need to go to Ferguson, Missouri to see what kind of fairness that town got from Bernie supporters. So now we have to remember that Bernie is seeking the presidential nomination from a party that officially endorsed the pro-cop killing Black Lives Matter movement, endorsed by Obama, signed, sealed. He brings them to the White House and they do what they do. They may share a goat. I don't know.
I never get invited.
I know.
I don't understand.
I know. And whose leaders swooned over the even more violent Occupy Wall Street movement as the unrest in Ferguson and Baltimore showed the nation that these people believe that rioting and looting are legitimate forms of activism. The pro-violence radicalism comes from the top for Bernie. The Vermont senator vocally supports the unrepentant Marxist terrorist Oscar Lopez Rivera, who he describes as one of the longest-serving political prisoners in history, 34 years, longer than Nelson Mandela. The plot thickens. Sanders told a town hall meeting in Puerto Rico that if Obama doesn't release Lopez, he will pardon him. Lopez Rivera conspired to transport explosives with intent to destroy federal government property and committed other crimes with the group that is known as the FALN. The actual name of it is Fuerzas Armadas de Liberación Nacional Puerto Riqueño Terrorist Group, otherwise known as FALN. And they are deemed responsible for the reign of terror that killed 6 people, injured 130 others, in 114 bombings.
This is nice guy Bernie?
Bernie supports this guy. He wants to get him pardoned. This includes the 1975 bombing of the historic Française Tavern in the city's financial district, left 4 people dead, wounded 50 others, and a New Year's Eve 1982 bombing at a police headquarters that maimed 3 NYPD cops. On January 24th, 1975, 10 pounds of dynamite were planted by the FALN at that Française Tavern in Lower Manhattan, exploded, killing a man by the name of Frank Connor in 2011. Joe Connor attended the parole hearing for Lopez Rivera in Terre Haute, Indiana, federal pen. And he and the other survivors of the FALN's murder spree offered Lopez Rivera multiple opportunities to express remorse, and he refused. That Sanders would support granting clemency to such a man tends to undermine his repeated claim that he is a democratic socialist. Ideologically, he is a communist, though he never joined the party. Folks, communist, socialist, socialism is communism light. It all leads the same way. And like Barack Obama, Sanders pals around with interesting people. He has terrorists as his backers. In March, he met with the Florida chapter of Your Friends and Mine, CARE. Uncle Bernie likes CARE. Yes. Sanders strongly supports the Apollo Alliance, which is a left-wing enviro pork barrel group that wants the government to take over America's energy industries, and one of whose leaders is a weather underground terrorist named Jeff Jones. Sanders...
I heard that name before.
Yeah. Yes. Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn, the unrepented sinners who blew up police stations, blew up a bomb, I want to say at a recruiting depot, and were going to bomb the Pentagon, or Barack Obama's terrorist buddies back from the 70s. Oh, and go ahead.
What I'd like to add to the Bernie thing
Yeah.
is the Libertarian Party presidential candidate
Johnson.
Johnson today said he agrees with 73% of what Bernie says.
Well, Bernie likes people who blow up innocent people and assassinate people, so it must be interesting.
You know, the Libertarian Party has some good things constitutionally.
And by the way, Bernie Sanders honeymooned in the Soviet Union and is a fan of Fidel and Daniel Ortega. You know, folks, let's examine this for a minute. You just got married, you have a brand new bride, you want to go do the honeymoon thing.
You go to Russia.
Let's go to the Soviet Union. We can celebrate our honeymoon by standing on the Berlin Wall and watching the guard change. Doesn't that inspire your bride?
Oh, man.
Isn't that
It
inspirational?
was a wild night.
Good time.
His wife was running a college,
And bankrupted it.
bankrupted it.
Yeah, his wife bankrupted a Northeastern college. Yeah, she's pretty good with the money too.
Yeah,
Well, she
I read
believes in
that.
free stuff for everything, so okay.
Hey.
And then we go a little bit further. Distancing himself from his unhinged followers is a little absurd because, of course, we have Barack Obama, who tried to give a little shove off to Reverend Jeremiah Wright, you know. Sanders is basically following the Alinsky playbook, which is no surprise.
Fell asleep at something the other day, a church service or something.
Yeah, big speech. And as an aid to the Rules for Radicals author wrote, while Alinsky was shying away from praising violence in public and sounding the trumpet blast for democracy in private, Alinsky would say that violence has its uses. So Bernie lies, you know. Note he refused to apologize for the actions of his supporters. And like many leftists, he is pretty skilled at bouncing between the studied reverence for the nonviolent action and refusing to condemn violent left-wing activism. He is offering his milquetoast, perfunctory blanket condemnation of violence in general. Remember one thing, though, Jim, that a lot of people forget. The unions do a lot of violence, and you know what's the funny part? Under federal unioneering laws, it's legal. That's why they don't get arrested for a lot of the violence that they do, because if you go and look at the laws pertaining to unions,
What?
yes, why do you think they don't get arrested more? A lot of this stuff they can't get arrested for because it's legal. That's the Democrat way.
Wow.
Yep. And the lying about the violence, of course, comes naturally to the left-wingers, although the right-wing political violence that doesn't take place a
No,
lot.
it's just the left that lies.
Well, no, but in this particular instance, this is what we're talking about here. So the overall tenor of this whole thing is that Democrat officials have a problem because Barbara Boxer felt her life was in danger. The royalty of the left-wing communist Democrat Party, at the Nevada event, and she had to have her security move in. You know, it's pretty interesting when Barbara Boxer comes up, and she tried to say she's not afraid of bullies, but you know, for an anti-gunner, she sure called the big boys with guns in pretty darn quick. You know, it's funny how
Absolutely.
fast they do that. It's funny how fast. So at the very end of the article, it basically just reiterates the fact that the Democrat Party is going to have a civil war coming up shortly, because someone on TV made a statement, Jim, that was very, very accurate. Bernie is not just a person. Bernie represents that Alinsky-style
Oh,
movement. But the interesting part is he is using Alinsky tactics with Black Lives Matter and using them as his own elite SS and Gestapo. And it does not recognize anybody but Bernie. So Hillary, even though she is the money bags for the Democratic Party, and that's why they can't get rid of her, because Wasserman Schultz, you know, the one with the bad hair who lies all the time, she has admitted in at least one interview that the Democrats are broke. And they picked up on a mic that was still open, and someone admitted to receiving, quote, the check from Hillary in one of the state Democratic organizations. So that $120 million or so that she's made over the years is being funneled into the Democrat organization, because they were worried about being able to afford to have the Democratic National Convention because they ain't got any money. So that's why...
where is that one this year?
I don't know. I don't want to be anywhere around it because it's going to be ugly.
wanna be around
Oh, and
it.
folks, if anybody you know lives near where that Democratic National Convention happens, tell them to go on vacation till it's over. Because when the Bernie people start fighting with the Hillary people, and the cops now, because of the Ferguson effect, are going to do this, because nobody, God forbid, we want to touch a minority, you know, because we might get sued. Folks, the good people are going to be caught in the crossfire, and it is going to be ugly.
You know what we forgot to do at the beginning? You need to talk about your meeting tomorrow night.
Yes, folks, I will be having my meeting tomorrow night. I have been doing
ABC's.
some research into more of the herbal cures, and I'm going to talk about that in depth. There's some new stuff that I found out. We will go into the pharmacopoeia of the Chinese medical tradition, and they have an interesting but very effective slant on injury and arthritis and the aches and pains that we all get. And it's a very effective thing. And unlike the cortisone shots that I have a good friend whose brother had to receive several cortisone shots for arthritis in each hip. The result was the fact that both of his hip joints rotted literally, and he had to get full hip replacements.
Yeah, I called my doctor about my knee, and he said, come in, I'll give you a cortisone
Oh,
shot.
no,
I said,
no, 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 no.
No, I said, that didn't fix anything the last time you did it, so I'm not doing that again.
No, 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 no.
And the Acadiana Patriots, next week's meeting, pretty significant. Harold Scheffler will be speaking about the I-49 connector. There's a lot of controversy, so we're going to get his opinion. And
It will be interesting, Jim, once a lot of that with the I-49 situation comes out, to see where the kickbacks, the bribes, and the payoffs are made, and exactly what happens with it. Because as you know and I know, in Louisiana politics, there's nothing straightforward about anything, you know.
Oh, no. And then Carol Ross, who's been in the public figure world for many years and a great community-based person, she'll be speaking about a favorite subject, red flex, and on no-bid contracts. She told me that on the phone. She said, I'm going to finish up with no-bid contracts. So I'm interested to see where that's going to lead. But need to talk to your friends and stuff. Get out to the Robichaux Center. Meeting starts at 6.
Next week.
Next Thursday, a week from tomorrow, June the 9th, at 6 o'clock at the Robichaux Recreation Center on Eras Landry Road. across the street from
Cox Cable.
Cox Cable.
Here's a good one that everybody ought to be happy with. Oh, bummer. That icon, that liberal majesty, the Messiah,
Hero.
oh yes, wants to spend $1 billion of taxpayer money on his presidential library.
Jeez.
Oh, I thought he was going on vacation.
He just raised that number, and the number's up to over 80 million now.
No, it's 100 million.
Ah.
Yeah, the latest report I read was over.
So they're adding the fuel costs and the Secret Service stuff to it too.
No, the $100 million for their vacation. I don't know what all the costs include, but they said they've spent over $100 million.
Of our money for his stuff.
I sure
And-
missed out on vacation.
And here goes another good one. It was pretty interesting. The Daily Caller was reporting that in one of the last primaries, Clinton got less than 30% of the white vote in Virginia.
I wonder why.
Bankrupt the coal industry.
We're
Yeah,
gonna
okay.
ruin the coal industry. And then she did this.
She had to walk it back. Yeah. Tom Brokaw came out and made a very, very interesting statement and said that all of these guns that we have now are going to mean more homegrown terrorists. Oh, you mean like the good people defying the tyrannical government? Kind of like, April the 19th on
Kinda like why the
1776?
Second Amendment was written.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Herman Cain brought out an excellent statement. He said that the greatest generation had lots of guns, and he said there's no homegrown terror when they were in charge.
No,
Amazing.
and I like the fact that when they show like the motorcycle guys that came in support of,
Oh, yeah.
and they said that there were no arrests made, and there was no violence, and that when they left, the area was cleaner than when they came.
That's usually how it works.
And then they show a picture of the thugs,
Yeah.
and the
Here's
area
a-
looks like a garbage
Here's a
truck.
pretty interesting thing. Daily Caller was reporting that in Baltimore, they just found the second cop by a judge trial not guilty. And the Baltimore mayor blames the white people for the cop being found not guilty. Fact check, the judge is black.
Oh.
Yeah, judge is
I
black.
wish I had that list of the people in Baltimore, the statistics.
Oh,
of
it's
how many
yeah,
police
percentages.
67% of the police force is black.
Yeah, and all of the mayor, all of the prosecutors, all the city council. Okay, yeah,
The whole city,
Yeah.
all the elected officials, mayor,
everybody.
whatever, are black.
Oh,
So
yeah.
how does that white privilege?
Well, here's another interesting one. 46 more people close to Clinton are dead. I'm telling you, bud, you don't want to get hooked up with those people because I'm telling you, if they think loose lips sink ships, loose lips don't also put stains on dresses, they get you killed. Lord, people end up dead. It's amazing. Now,
Freaking amazing.
the Daily Caller is reporting that our good buddy Trump is now releasing a video highlighting audio of Bill's rape victims. And it's an audio, but it has them talking about what Bill did to them. Oh, it's getting deep. It's getting deep.
Yeah, as Paul Revere, it has only just begun.
Oh, yeah. Now, here's an interesting thing. Breitbart is reporting in Europe, whenever a crime is reported, they have to use Muslim translators. And they are reporting that Muslim translators are purposely lying and denying Muslim harassment of Christians and Yazidi migrants in Europe to the authorities. Oh, it just gets better and better and better.
Well, I mean, that don't surprise me. You got an idiot like Biden saying what he said. I mean,
Oh, and here's a good one. You'll like this. 43 past presidents spent $6.3 billion total. Obama has spent 6.5. And they had 200 years to work on theirs. He's at 8. Yeah.
you saw the house he bought, huh?
Oh, yeah.
In Washington, D.C. $5 million. And you know what? It has walls.
Oh, yeah. Big walls.
It has big brick walls.
Big walls. Yeah, and here was the full story on it. The judge found Ed Nero not guilty in the death of Freddie Gray. Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake still wants an administrative review, and she told protesters herself of the verdict to inflame violence. And it is just getting better and better. Now, we have to remember that in December we had a mistrial for Officer William Porter. Now, what's going to happen is Porter's trial has been moved up. But, folks, look, Marilyn Mosby, the race pimp, has got egg all over her face on this. First off, let's discuss the actual facts of Freddie Gray. He has got at least 9 possessions of drugs and probably 3 or 4 that I read of distribution. The police approached him, he ran. Here in Louisiana, that's a crime right there. It's called resisting, 14108. They catch him, he has by statute an illegal knife on his person. Illegal carrying of a concealed weapon. They arrest him. Now, facts. We know for a fact Freddie Gray, 6 months before his death, had neck surgery. We know for a fact there was another inmate riding in that vehicle. We know from inmate testimony Freddie Gray was observed throwing himself backwards onto a bolt protruding from the wall of the van in an attempt to injure himself. Mm-hmm. And yet his family is paid millions of dollars, and we have 2 officers who so far have not been found guilty. Now,
What about the black officers?
Oh, they painted everybody with a brush. Marilyn Mosby, she just charged everybody, you know, like black, white. She doesn't discriminate, you know.
Excuse me. Does it what?
She don't discriminate. Oh no, she hits everybody with it. Now, Judicial Watch is reporting that the Clinton Foundation, get this, received $100 million from a Canada-based London group. Now, Hillary made $21 million on speeches in 2 years. So there are your bribes from foreign governments for leaving the server unprotected. Now, she claims in interviews that are recorded that she used her BlackBerry exclusively.
Yeah, this is good.
Judge Napolitano brought up that the 7th floor of the State Department building has a blocking mechanism that no BlackBerries or cell phones can be used on. You know, Jim, the lies.
It just
the
gets
lies,
better and
the
better.
lies.
They wonder why I'm not stressed. I mean, stuff like this is just totally ridiculously funny and absurd to me. The fact that they think everybody has stupid printed across their forehead.
You just can't make it up.
You
There's
think
just
anybody watches our show?
significant. There's Walmart shoppers who do.
Walmart shoppers, yeah. Got plenty of them.
Oh, and here's another good one.
Have to stop going to Walmart.
Yeah, Speaker Paul Ryan lies. Paul Ryan has been confronted over the bailout.
You're kidding me? He lied?
Of Puerto Rico. Well, they have changed the word bailout to Puerto Rico rescue. Either way, we are going to get it, and we are going to be paying for it.
And John Fleming is
Fighting
totally against this.
And folks, this is why John Fleming needs to be our next Louisiana senator. Boustany is bought and paid for by whoever can raise the highest bid or money, we know for a fact. And Boustany,
he's on the insider.
yeah, Boustany will vote for whatever Ryan wants up to this point. And John Fleming, you can look at his voting record. He voted to get rid of John Boehner. He has voted, and
we will be truthful here. He did vote for John Boehner several times. We need to keep that clear because, but we know why he did that. The strategy.
Yep.
It was strategy to get him later.
And he got him. He got rid of him.
And he is undoubtedly, I've heard him talk about it twice, and I've also heard his son in a private conversation, sit down and talk with me. He is the one that got John Boehner out of office.
So we
Period.
need to seriously consider John Fleming as our next U.S. Senator. He's got the credentials. He came up, he's a Navy man.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, just a couple of quick comments, guys. I just want to say I really appreciate your show. I watch it every week. I've been watching it for years, but I don't always call in. I want to let you know that. Keep up the good work. And one last comment. Even though Bill Clinton is a sleazeball and always has been, I kind of feel sorry for him. He had to see Hillary naked. Thank you, guys.
Woo! Don't touch that.
We're not gonna even go there.
Nope.
Nope.
The thought is so traumatizing, I may not be able to eat for the next
We
week.
gotta give John Bel Edwards some credit, though.
Yep.
Really, he did sign into law. What do we got, 7 seconds?
72-hour waiting period for abortions in Louisiana. He must have really